In the previous lectures, I've been talking about composition and the timeline for the composition. Exactly what's a composition? Well, a composition, you would say, is a collection of layers that are put in a certain way according to the timeline and manipulated inside the timeline. Let's dig in. The best way to create a composition is to click on the bottom here and to say new composition. Before that, I want to draw your attention to something important. If I look at the movies here, they are 1920 by 1080 and they are 25 frames per second. It will just clever to use the same size and the same frames per second as per your camera. If you had 29.9 on your camera, then you can use this one, or 24, you will use 24 frames per second. So let me create a new composition. I will click on the create new composition, and then first of all I give it a name. For example, my babies. Actually, these are my babies. This is my daughter. And then you will see here you have a preset. If I click, I can see it's over here. This is the last one I used. The last one I use is HDTV 1080 by 25, so After Effects is suggesting that I use the same. Now there are very many presets for NTC TVs, PAL TVs, and so on. These are mainly for the web, the one that you see here. They are pretty good for the web. And the main ones are HDTV 1080 by 25, that is 1920 by 1080, and frame rates 25 frames per second. And the HDV 720 by 25, it's lower resolution, but still 25 frames per second. Choose HDTV 1080 25, or choose whatever parameters you have here. You should have them around here. Try to play with it. You can always change the preset, no problem. So I will choose HDTV and click OK. It created for me a composition. That's the composition viewer, and that's the composition timeline. There is nothing now in the composition or in the composition timeline. In the next lecture, we start dropping our movies in the composition timeline and see exactly how we are going to work. Meanwhile, if you made a mistake and your composition is not equal to the parameters of your movie, you can always come over to the title of the composition here, right click and say composition setting, or you can click on the composition, right click also and say composition setting, and you can change the preset until you match your movies. That's my advice, that you match your movies. Or you can change the preset here and drop in your movies and see what happens. Usually it will always work fine if your movie is not going to go to TVs and radios and professional work. If it is just a simple work, no problem. Something else, you have the duration of the composition. In this case, it gave me 39 seconds and 18 frames. But now I don't want 39 seconds. All I want is, for example, 30 seconds. I can write 30, press dot. That will signify 30 seconds. And you can see here is 30 seconds. It's base 25 frames per second. You click OK, and here you are, you change your settings. If I right click, go back to composition setting, I'll see it has taken 30 seconds, 1920 by 1080. Of course, you can scrap this one and change them the way you want, but usually you won't do that. You will just stick to what you have in your movies. Fine. Now that you have created our composition called My Babies, in the next lecture, what we are going to do is to bring the movies in and start to adjust them and start to create a movie.